Good day, YouTube. I'm Daniel Claremont. I'm the Acadian therapist. I hope that you're doing well. This is our second live, where we're going to be talking about productivity, getting things done, achieving your goals. We're still getting started with all of this, and I'm still learning how the notifications go out. My understanding is if you tap the bell icon on where you subscribe, or at the bottom of my videos, if you type on the bell icon, it'll give you notifications when I go live, as well as when I upload new content. Or as far as I know, it doesn't spam anybody, but I certainly hope that it doesn't. If it does, please do let me know, because that's not my intention. So, as I mentioned, this is the second week. So last week we talked about sort of an overview. Good day, life's journey. Welcome. Last week we gave kind of an overview of behavior change and making the kinds of changes you want to make in your life. We did a bit of a poll to sort of check in to see where people are at in their process of change. We had sort of an even division. Some people were still just getting started or just thinking about making changes. Other people had already started making lifestyle changes or pursuing goals, New Year's resolutions, what have you. And some people were already risking relapse and falling off the wagon with whatever it is that they're working on. And so I thought this week we'd do a bit of a deeper dive into breaking goals down into small pieces. I'm going to talk a little bit about the logic behind that. I'm also going to be talking a lot about a specific method called tiny habits, which was developed by Dr. B.J. Fogg. And it just so happens I have his book handy. But I've done an episode about this before on my channel, and in fact, if you're watching this as a recording, it'll be on the same playlist. It's episode 19, Tiny Habits, where I talk a little bit about it. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about this, and I'm hoping to hear about some specific examples that people are dealing with. So I put a question in the chat, which was, what are some of the goals or behaviors you'd like to hear more about changing? I'm not looking to out you, so maybe this is your aunt that is looking for some help with something, or maybe it's one of your kids, maybe it's your neighbor, whoever. But just put something in the comments, and we can use some specific examples. Maybe we can break down some tiny habits to help with that process. But before I get started, I just wanted to introduce myself, I suppose. So I'm Daniel Claremont. I'm a mental health therapist. I'm a social worker by training. I also have training in psychology. Most of my experience has been between Nova Scotia and Ontario in Canada. I've worked in a wide variety of settings over the years, nearly 20 years experience, which is a little surprising. It was a lot of hair ago when I got started. But I picked up a few things along the way, and so I'm happy to share some of those strategies. But just to be really clear, although I am a mental health therapist, this is not therapy, and I would argue that at no point is any video that you're going to come across actually therapy. The hope is that the content on my channel is going to be therapeutic. That might give you some different ideas and strategies to help deal with things. But in my opinion, it's not a replacement for therapy. The reason why is when you're working with somebody, they can get to know you specifically and work with you on your goals, your own specific barriers. Sometimes there's underlying issues that can get in the way. And so sometimes you want someone that you can work through that with. So I hope that you will do yourself the kindness of looking up someone in your area, wherever you are in the world. A website that I usually recommend for folks in North America, at least, is the Psychology Today website. And there's some pretty high criteria to be listed on that website. You need to have very specific training. You need to have a good license and whatnot. So I would recommend that to find someone in your area. And even if the person you're talking to, many of the people there would be in private practice, so they might charge rates that you can't afford or you can't manage that. But even just asking them for free resources in your area, they'll probably be more well-versed in wherever you are in the world and able to help you find resources. So I hope that you will look that up. But for now, let's get to it. So, and thank you for the example. Accomplishing massive miles of housework. Oh my goodness, is that not so relatable? Absolutely, I can relate to that. So I have ideas, I have notes. So we're going to chat about that. Good day, Minnie. Welcome. So for those that are just joining in, this week we're going to be talking about tiny habits to try to break down the goals and things you want to get accomplished into small manageable pieces to be able to achieve that maybe more productively. And I put a question in the notes. What are some of the goals or behaviors you'd like to hear more about changing? So I'm going to talk about the theory piece a little bit. But if there's anything in particular that you or someone you care about is working on, that you'd like some ideas on how to break that down using this tiny habits model. Good day, Teresa. Nice to see you. If you have any specific examples, feel free to ask. So, the tiny habits model was developed by Dr. B.J. Fogg. As I said, I've got his book here. Although I first listened to this as an audiobook, and I frankly would recommend that. So I'm going to put that in the show notes later, or actually, you can check out episode 19 on my channel. It's in the productivity playlist. If you check out the show notes, it should link to the resource there to get to the source material for this. I would recommend the audiobook because, for one thing, there's something interesting to hear the theory in his own voice. He also shares his own personal stories, and it's very interesting to sort of hear his process and how he applied this to his own life. A lot of years of experience spent developing this model. And it also comes with a PDF that you can print off, which looks kind of like this. It's got some very beautiful graphics that are listed in here. So, yeah. Anyway, some beautiful graphics that go along with the audiobook. The reason that I liked it was my own tiny habit. So I was able to listen to it just while I was doing housework, while I was puttering around, or just commuting, back when I used to commute places pre-pandemic. And so I thought that was an interesting way to sort of get exposed to that material. And by the way, if you're looking for audiobooks, I do recommend Audible. I'm not sponsored by them, but audible.ca here in Canada, .com, I think in the US. I'm not sure about elsewhere in the world. But you get your first audiobook free. Just make sure you cancel your membership before the end of the month so you don't get charged again. And you get to keep the book. So it's great. So you could access this for free. You could do that today. So yeah, do consider that. But basically, what Dr. Fogg did was he broke down behavior change into three basic components. So he came up with a formula, which is B equals MAP, or MAP. So we're going to be mapping out behavior change. B stands for behavior. Which behavior do you want to change? So this can be something you want to do more of, or something you might want to do less of. So JD, you gave the goal of accomplishing housework. So that would be accomplishing more stuff. The new behavior would be productive, actually getting the things done. Fair enough. So that would be the behavior. So MAP are the components. So M stands for motivation. Now, we talked about this last week. And from the poll last week, there was sort of an even split. Some people were struggling to even get started. I've been struggling with that this month, just feeling low energy, just tired, kind of tantrumy. It's like, oh, I don't feel like doing it, right? So that lack of motivation, really common at this time of year, sort of post the holidays. There tends to be that slump midwinter. The cause of it really, it'd be debatable as to why we have low energy this time of year. But of course, any time of year, you could be watching this video in summer and feeling lack of motivation. I think it's fair to say most of the time we're not going to be motivated to do the really healthy thing, and we're very easily motivated to do the unhealthy thing. I require no assistance being motivated in eating ice cream, for example. I am extraordinarily good at it, and I don't mean to boast, but that is a skill set that I have. I don't have to work at it. So to create motivation or to be in the mood to do it, I believe Dr. Fogg would say, don't even worry about it. It's a component of behavior change. There needs to be some motivation, but it's hard to create motivation. And this is often a trap people fall into. I'll do it when I'm in the mood. Well, when's the mood? And usually we just let it pile up until the discomfort of that. So the housework example, maybe at some point you have no clean cutlery or no clean plates, or you just get sick of seeing the pile of dishes. So you go, okay, I'm frustrated. So the discomfort of it builds up to the point that you want to relieve it. And so it's a source of stress that you want to get rid of, which I think is not the nicest way of motivating. I think a better way of motivating is wanting to do it and having the interest or not seeing it as much of a burden. And that's what this system helps provide. So for now, we're going to park the motivation piece. I'll probably talk about it more in a future video. I have some thoughts on further improving motivation, but Dr. Fogg would say you really cannot plan that. So that's the M piece. A stands for ability. So ability. So what he's referring to here is whatever you want to do, are you actually able to do it? So if I wanted to become a medical doctor, okay, well, I have not come close to touching med school. I've done very little work as far as that goes. So if I wanted to take that on, I'd have to ask myself some serious questions. So how many years would I have to put in? How much money would it cost? What baseline knowledge do I have? Like how much catching up would I need to do? So there'd be a lot of factors that I would have to calculate there. And I'd have to decide, so am I actually able to do those things in the number of years I have left alive? And is it worthwhile for me? So if I finish medical school at age 75, why did I want to become a doctor? Is it really to work a long career? Is it just that I want to tick a box? So questioning whether you have the ability to do it is a very important thing. This is the kind of thing that can be helpful to bounce off of other people. Usually the order that I would recommend would be start with daydreaming. Just start with daydreaming. What would, if you picture living your best life, what are you doing? Where are you living? Who are you living with? What kinds of, resources do you have? So start by daydreaming the future. And then you can start breaking it down. Well, what do I need to get there? So you start to boil it down into smaller and smaller pieces until eventually you get to a piece that, yes, I think I can do that. But for tiny habits, you want to break it down much, much, much smaller. The example we had here was housework. So doing massive piles of housework. By the way, if you have any other examples, we have a few other people that have joined in, any other behavior that you're looking to change, that you want to do more of or you want to do less of, put it in the comments, and I'll try to use some examples from this model to help apply it. But for housework, so let's say you have a pile of chores. Let's say your house is an absolute disaster. It's a real mess, and it's overwhelming to even think about doing it. Now, by the way, overwhelm is a symptom of being outside of your window of tolerance, which is a totally natural biological process. This doesn't mean that you're lazy. It doesn't mean that you're weak or failed as a human being. This just means that you're having a defensive reaction. Your nervous system is flaring up and it's shutting you down a little bit. It's making you a little bit anxious or tense, or it's making you feel deflated, which we would describe as lazy or lack of motivation, right? So if you're looking at all of the things you need to do, it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be way too much to do. So you're not able to do all of those things. So what you want to do is you want to break it down really simply. You want to make it so easy that anybody could do it. So let's say you might start by cleaning the sink. Just cleaning the sink in the bathroom or something. Something that maybe takes a minute, 30 seconds, nothing too busy. Or folding one piece of laundry. putting away one pair of shoes. You want to use a task that is so easy that it almost seems pointless. The reason why is when it is so easy, the threshold, the level that you need to reach for your energy is an all-time low. So it doesn't take much. You know, if you want me to fold 5 baskets of laundry, oh my gosh, that is really overwhelming. So don't do that. But can you fold one shirt? Well, yeah, I can do that, right? So you do that. So that's the ability piece. So you want to break it down into a small task that you can easily do without being too stressed about it, that even on your worst day, and especially when your brain or your emotions are screaming at you, that are saying, you can't do it, you're going to fail, you're worthless, you never amount to anything, whatever, that deflating emotion, you can probably still fold a shirt while your brain is telling you that. And that's very important. That can get you through those low phases. So that's the ability piece, breaking it down really, really small. Quitting smoking. I love it. I'm going to get to that, Jenny. Thank you so much. So we talked B equals MAP. Motivation, ability. P stands for prompt. If I had a nickel for every person, so we'll talk in a session, we talk about, so okay, well, can you work on these things? Absolutely, sounds good, we have an agreement. Somebody comes back and they say, I did it once or twice, but I totally forgot to do it. We need a reminder, especially if it's a new behavior. So if you have piles of housework that are not going done, you are very efficient at not doing housework. Brains like to continue doing what they're familiar with. So if you're very good at not doing it, you're going to continue not doing it until we implement this new behavior. Okay, so that's what the prompt would do. So I'm going to use the wiping the sink example. So let's say that the prompt you do, let's say you're already good at brushing your teeth first thing in the morning. So after you brush your teeth, you're going to look at your sink. Maybe you even have a towel right next to it. You wipe it right after you brush your teeth, and that's done. And then you carry on with your day. So the prompt is brushing your teeth. When you brush your teeth, I have to wipe the sink. Most of us have a cell phone handy. Setting a timer for yourself that when it goes off, this is when you do your little thing. I've been practicing the piano, so when a timer goes off, I set a timer every day. When I know that I'm not going to be terribly busy, and it goes off and it says, practice your piano. So that's my prompt. And with the piano, I'm not doing a lot. I'm doing the most basic things, so it's not terribly stressful. I do it every day. Now, I know it sounds too simple and it sounds too small. And granted, if you're just folding one shirt, well, what about the rest of the laundry? If you want to do more, you're allowed to do more. You are always allowed to do more. But Dr. Fogg would be really clear to say, don't raise the bar on yourself. So if you fold a basket of laundry this morning, tomorrow morning, the goal is fold one shirt. It is not put away a basket of laundry. The reason for this is, I mean, it feels good to accomplish and we want to keep achieving. I love achievement. I love goals. You're watching a video on productivity, so I'm sure that you have some similarities there. But you don't want to raise the bar on yourself. If you feel like doing more, that's great. You're allowed. Celebrate it. That's great. Hey, I'm in the zone today. But if tomorrow, if you're in a rotten mood, if it's really hard, just do the one little thing. Okay? So do the little thing. It's like keeping the pilot light on. You just want to do it consistently, regularly, when the prompt goes off. An example that he uses is push-ups. He said he does 2 push-ups when he goes to the bathroom. This was something he was able to do. Didn't matter about motivation. Didn't talk about that. He was able to do 2 push-ups. The prompt was after he goes to the bathroom, he flushes, he washes his hands, 2 push-ups. Last I heard, he is up to 80 push-ups a day. Now, if he'd set the goal, I'm going to do 80 push-ups a day, that would have been overwhelming. His brain would have shut down and said, nope, I can't do that, right? Yes, I like that you like the pilot light example. Yes, I like that metaphor. I don't know that everybody gets it, but yes, keeping the pilot light on, absolutely. because motivation rises and falls, comes in waves. So what you want is something so small that even when your brain's fighting you, when it feels absolutely pointless, when you don't believe in yourself, you're really down on yourself, can you fold one shirt? Can you wipe down that sink? Right? So you want to practice that. Prompt, don't forget the prompt. That's what's going to remind you to do it. Okay? And one other component that's not in this formula, but is very important that he talks about is rewarding yourself. It's praise. So I have a dog. He shows up in a lot of my videos. He's, I think, one of the main mindfulness or meditation coach on the Rest, Relaxation, and Helpful Distractions playlist. So all the meditations and stuff I have on my channel. But I trained him to do a lot of things. So the example I use is when he wants to shake paw, right? This has no significance to a dog. He has no need to do that in nature. But I trained him to do it by saying shake, shake, and I would hold his paw and say shake. And then when he'd learn to do it, I'd say, good boy, and I would give him praise. This would give him a squirt of dopamine, pleasure, and a reward that said, hey, this is a good thing to do. It's humbling, but we humans are pretty similar. So when we can, I think back in elementary school, getting a gold star, that was a big deal. If you got a gold star on an assignment or a book report, that was amazing. It made my week. So when you do the behavior, praising yourself, now you don't have to do this forever, but you can. There's very little harm. This can be as simple as good job. And when I do that, I feel like I'm being silly, like, good job, I'm so proud, good job. When I feel silly, it gives me that pleasure. So it reinforces, it wires in that this is a good thing to do. Keep doing it. So the more you practice it, the better that you get. But giving yourself that praise. So that is the whole equation. Any behavior, motivation, don't worry about, but if you have some motivation, that's fine. Ability, you want to break it down in a small enough piece. You want to be real with yourself as to whether you're actually able to do this. Now, sometimes our minds are good at telling us you can't do it. If you break it down small enough, you probably can. And you can take those small steps towards your goal. Okay? And then P is the prompt. So the thing that's going to remind you to do the new behavior. Don't just rely on your memory. You're very good at not remembering to do it. So that's what you're going to default to. Set an artificial timer, something outside of you that's going to remind you to do the thing. Okay? So that is this model. As you accomplish this, in my experience, it actually led to other behaviors. And that's what's cool. Once you start to develop this tiny habit, it spills over. So you're going to start feeling more accomplishment. You're going to look for other behaviors because you get that flush of victory, right? So you say like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm going to keep doing it. So you start applying this to other areas of your life. So many things start changing. So I know that it can seem really pointless to do the little thing, but try to practice it more consistently. So I'm just going to turn my attention to the chats now. And if you have any questions about what I've said, please put it in because I'd love to answer those questions now. So quitting smoking. We've got a good discussion going. So breaking free from smoking is totally doable. That's awesome. It is doable, Minnie. It absolutely is, 100%. Sometimes setting a timer, racing against it, get as much done as you can be a fun way to get things done. Yes, absolutely. So a competition element, absolutely. That can be fun too. So about smoking. So a behavior you don't want to do. So we've talked about building up a behavior. What do we do to stop another behavior? So I did a video on this. I think it's episode 22. It is called Harm Reduction. And it talks about ways of working with your biology to be able to cut down or to use more safely. But essentially using the tiny habits method. So to the desired behaviors, you want to make them easier to do, right? So remember I was talking about cleaning the sink. Well, have the towel next to the sink. If you want to learn to brush your teeth more consistently, get a really tasty toothpaste. Get a fun toothbrush. Make it really obvious, make it really visible. You want to make it super easy, super simple, so it's easier to do. For quitting smoking, you want to make, for a behavior you want to do less of. Now, one thing we talk about is breaking a habit, which is very aggressive language. We humans like our aggressive language. But if we view smoking as just a habit that developed over time, so you're very good at smoking. You've practiced it over time. It comes with its own reward, so you get pleasure when you use it. The physical addiction as well. So there's pleasure that comes from smoking the cigarette. There's also a punishment. So when you stop smoking, the craving, so that's a physical craving as well as an emotional craving, right? So there's a lot of factors that make it really convenient to smoke. So anything that makes it less automatic, less convenient. So the harm reduction approaches talk a lot about that. Making the cigarettes a bit less accessible. Now you want to be careful not to punish yourself. So it's not about forcing yourself. What you want to do, I would say, is cut down. So smoke a little bit less every day, then praise yourself for it. But you don't want to cut down so dramatically, unless you want to quit cold turkey. Some people certainly do that. But if we want to use tiny habits as a method, or harm reduction as a method, again, the less you stress your brain, the easier it is to keep going. So if you cut cold turkey, actually a common source of relapse for people is they cut down too fast, or it's too, basically, cutting down too fast or cutting out entirely. And that is a physical stress. So the body jumps into physical stress. And one of the things it uses to deal with physical stress is smoking. So people end up relapsing. Or they do really well, and then something happens in their life that stresses them out, and the brain that has that old behavior of smoking is still there. And so then the relapse. And when the relapse happens, and by the way, relapses happen for pretty much everybody, for everything. And many, absolutely, some people cold turkey works fine. And if it works for you, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. Celebrate that. What I'm talking about here is an approach that is more of a stepped approach. It's a way of getting your brain on board, your brain and body on board, and not triggering those defensive reactions or that discomfort or that stress, right? So when you're able to cut down, and when stress shows up, I mean, you could say, yep, I'm feeling a little bit of stress, and that's because I'm working on my goal, but I'm still allowed to have the cigarette. I'm just choosing not to have it right now. Make it a bit less convenient. Make it less accessible. One thing that I'm pretty sure they passed a law about this, at least in Canada, where they put these really disgusting images and things on the cigarettes and these messages talking about lung cancer and different things. Well, this is meant to be a disincentive, to make it less convenient to smoke, less appealing to smoke, removing it from TV and movies, right, and commercials and whatnot. So all of this stuff was trying to remove prompts for cigarettes. So if you can make it less desirable somehow. So when I was cutting down on junk food, that's something that I did last year, I removed this, the snacks from the shiny, nice packaging, and I just kept it in the plain Ziploc bag, so it was less appealing. I stored it next to my paper towels, so it was like light bulbs, right? So it was not a desirable location. And I also had to reach up. I also put a label on the cupboard saying sugar addiction snacks. Not meant as a shaming thing, but meant as an awareness piece. All of these were speed bumps. It was ways of slowing me down to make it less convenient to have that snack. And when I did engage in the snack, rather than eat chips right out of the bag, I'd pour a small bowl, right? I would have just a small portion, and I'm allowed to go back for more, but I have to make the choice. So with cigarettes, you might try smoking half a cigarette. You might try smoking the cigarette in a different environment than you're used to. What you're doing is you're changing how automatic that behavior is. So every day you have your cigarette with your coffee first thing in the morning. Have the coffee first, then have your cigarette, or have the cigarette first, then the coffee. Have half a cigarette, and you are allowed to finish it. As soon as you try to restrict, you say you're not allowed to do it, your brain's going to say, well, why not? I want to do it. And you don't want that tantrum. You don't want to battle yourself. You want to say, I'm going to try this tiny thing. And I'm allowed to have more, but I need to slow it down, right? So all of these little adjustments, basically you want to make the undesired behavior harder to do. You want to make the desired behavior easier to do. So I hope that there's some ideas there. Just checking the comments. You like to write lists instead of a to-do list. I make a done list. It's a little reward seeing all that I've accomplished. Princess, next week, I'm thinking next week we're going to tackle personal Kanban, which is a very good system, and it follows nicely from Tiny Habits, I think. So I already did do an episode on this. It's episode 16. It's on the productivity playlist if you want to get a jump on it, so you can watch that content. Usually those videos are filmed with a bit of a nicer background than I have here as well, so you get to see a little bit of Nova Scotia too. But you'll see how we can take these tiny habits and integrate it into a system like personal Kanban. And a bit of a spoiler, it is also not aggressive. It is not super pushy. It is a way of working with the natural ways that our minds work, our bodies work, so you're not having to force and fight yourself so much. So we're going to talk about that next Tuesday. That will be the 25th of January, so check out this space. I'm just going to take another quick look at the comments here. Any other thoughts or questions about tiny habits? And anything else that people want to say about their own ways of change? Having to go outside for smoking. Thank you so much, Minnie. Having to go outside for smoking helps. Less triggers of smelling the addiction, if that makes sense. Yes, absolutely. You're changing the environment. You're changing the behavior. So again, behaviors are part of a system, right? There's a prompt, there's a behavior, there's a reward. There's multiple components to that. So when you change parts of the environment, when you change parts of how the behavior shows up, it makes it less automatic, right? And when it's less automatic, you have more chance to think and make a better choice for yourself. So thank you so much for that. I'm glad you like the tips. That's great. Yeah, I really enjoy studying this stuff. I really enjoy learning this stuff. It's really fantastic. Now, don't forget that we're not wired to be productive all the time, and so it's okay not to. If you're having a lot of intense emotions, again, there's the Mental Health Essentials playlist I've got. A lot of different concepts there about window of tolerance, understanding your biology, being able to work with it, grounding strategies. There is also a whole playlist of rest relaxations and helpful distractions, guided meditations, guided relaxation, because we all need to take a break every now and then, and that is super healthy. So that is all I have for you this week. You'll be able to find this live. It takes a little bit of time to process, but it'll be uploaded probably by the end of the day. So you're able to come back and visit this. If you have any other thoughts or comments, you can certainly send me a message. And check out my website. It's just acadiantherapist.com. You can send me a message there anonymously, if you please. You know, it's all good. But if you do want me to reply, it's important that you do give me an email address and at least some name that I can address you by. Thank you. Once again, I'm Daniel. I'm the Acadian therapist here in rural Nova Scotia. Thank you so much for your attention, your great questions. Perhaps we'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.